Alright, here we go once again. Alright, legends, welcome along to Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. We're getting into Buffy the Vampire Slayer one more time with Season 4, Episode 18, Where the Wild Things Are. This is a very interesting episode and stands alone from the main overarching storyline of the season. I've said before about Season 4 of Buffy, feels very disjointed at times because of just a few things that happened throughout just going by memory in this. There was a slightly different way they were going to go about it, but they lost one of the main actors and their overall plan, if memory serves. So there's a lot of episodes in here that are standalones from the bigger overarching thing. But it's turning out not to be a bad series at all. Really enjoying getting back into it this time. I've always been a big fan of these shows, particularly the spin-off, the Buffy Angel. But on the first viewing when it originally came out, I had kind of dropped off ever so slightly during Season 4 just because of that disjointedness feeling in the episodes. But it is what it is. This one here, for the most part, fairly, I was going to say generic episode, but one that you're thinking, okay, I'm going to get an interesting story here, but not something that's going to really jump out at me. But there is, in the explanation of the episode and everything that's going on, very, very good. So at the beginning of the episode, Buffy and Riley, they're out fighting this vampire, and a demon comes to its aid, and something that's never really happened before. And later on, Giles does actually say that, when it comes to demons, they kind of look at the vampires as, lower beings than themselves. They're like a mongrel breed because of the humanity mixed in with the demon on that side. But throughout this episode, Buffy and Riley, they're at it quite a bit in this episode. So much so to the point that they may actually die through their getting it on, let's just say. But so the next morning, after fighting this demon and vampire tag team, getting the upper hand on them, they go back to the dorm and to bed straight away. Off they go. Decide they'll tell Giles in the morning. They do pass the word on to him, and he gives the whole explanation and whatnot. Of this just being something that doesn't happen between demons and vampires. Cut over to Xander. He's working on an ice cream. There's a new word for you. Xander, he's working this ice cream truck in this episode, and Anya, she's there with him, and he's going to go to a party that night at Lowell House, but Anya, being the ex-demon that she is, she's not up for the idea of partying with Initiative soldiers, and she thinks that Xander's not been sensitive to her feelings, you know what I mean? She's also on one in this episode that Xander's losing interest in her because they haven't had sex for a few nights in a row, and she thinks this is causing their relationship to break up, and he suggests, he's getting all defensive and whatnot, trying to say, everything's grand, we've gone nights before without having sex. But then he challenges her, let's have sex right now in the van, and, he realises there's a group of children and parents standing outside the ice cream van. So, just typical Xander tomfoolery in this episode. Back at the university, the Scooby Gang, they're having their meeting about the patrol the night before. Riley suggests that Adam, the hybrid demon that the Initiative were putting together in secret, is trying to bring the demon races together, and everyone agrees this is probably the most likely explanation. And again, they go into the whole thing about demons and vampires not mixing usually. Buffy and Riley escape for some more alone time, let's just say. But the rest of the group, it's no secret to them. Giles, he doesn't want to have anything to do with this party, but he says he can't attend. He's got a prior engagement at the espresso pump that evening. At the Lowell house, the heat isn't working, and people are up during the night. Buffy and Riley continue doing their thing in Riley's room. One of the initiative soldiers / students, whatever you want to call them at this point, he's trying to get a fire going in the fireplace, and it suddenly flares up out of control and catches his clothes on fire. Cut over to the bronze. Spike, he's outside, he jumps out, and Anya, he's trying to scare her into giving him money, but she just basically taunts him as being pathetic and friendless. And Spike is very good at getting under the skin of people, realising what's bothering them and really playing into that there. So he gets into the whole thing about where's Droopy Boy at, referring to Xander, and just saying he's got pretty much better things to do than hang out with you, sort of thing. Over at the party, Buffy and Riley, they've got out of bed for once in the episode. They're down mixing through the people at the party, but they're just making eyes at each other across the room while everybody's attempting to talk to them, but they're just not paying any attention to them. Spike and Anya show up at this point. No, they don't actually. They're over at the bronze stall. They're having a drink. Just jumping ahead of my notes here. They're both missing their demon powers, and Spike suggests that they both take vengeance out on their respective lovers. But Anya says she can't, though, Spike. You might as well attack Drusilla some other time. So Drusilla gets mentioned in this episode, and interestingly enough, at the recording of this episode, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, Juliette Landau, that played Drusilla, has a movie out called A Place Among the Dead, and I just finished watching that this morning, and that is a very, very good film, and an incredibly, I probably won't review it on the show at some point, but it's such an incredibly personal story. It's kind of goes into there's a lot of real life stuff on her part in the movie, and a lot of horror kind of fantasy sort of stuff in there as well. But unbelievable movie, and revealed stuff about Juliette herself that I wasn't aware of. Even in the opening 5 minutes of the film, it's a beautiful movie, heart-wrenching film. I would highly recommend you checking it out. So if you haven't seen A Place Among the Dead, if you've got Prime Video, I think you can watch. Well, I was able to watch it here in the UK in Prime Video with my membership. So very, very good. Go check it out, and you won't regret it. Back to this episode of Buffy. Over at the Lowell house, a student leads his hand on the wall while talking to this girl, and he suddenly feels great sexual pleasure just by touching this wall. Xander, he's off flirting with a girl named Julie. Buffy and Riley escape upstairs to the bedroom to get at it one more time. Dirty Hellions, the two of them. Another man at the party puts his hand on the same wall at the insistence of the first guy, with the same results. So different points throughout the episode, you see students lining up to touch this wall, and every time somebody touches it, they're going on to cloud nine. Willow and Tara, they're sitting in the stairwell, they're talking. Willow touches Tara's knee, and of course there's the whole relationship thing kicking off with them at this point. Tara backs away, disgusted at the gesture, although she up to this point is clearly the one that has the strong feelings for Willow, so something's off with that. Anya and Spike then arrive at the party. Spike is freaked out as he realises that the initiative will try to recapture him if they work out who he is. But he joins the party when he realises no one cares, no one gives a crap at this point about Spike, whether he's hostile 17, I think was what they categorised him as. So, yeah, him and Anya gang up on Xander, and Anya tells Xander the relationship is over, but then he puts it back on her, and it's the whole "you can't leave me because I'm leaving you" sort of thing. There's a group playing a spin the bottle game. Xander joins in when he realises this girl Julie is part of the players. The bottle lands on Julie in one of the turns, and Xander, wants to kiss her, but he's watching to see if Anya's keeping an eye. So he sheepishly kind of gives her a little peck in the cheek. She jumps on him at this point, and just everybody sexually in this episode are very, very active, let's just say. But she jumps on him, straddles him, starts kissing him, but she then jumps off, apologises and runs away. Xander goes after her, seeing more of these party goers trying to touch this orgasm wall, let's just call it. Xander finds Julie in a closet cutting off her hair and calling herself bad. Willow heads off to the restroom looking for Tara, and instead finds a young boy drowning in a bathtub. But whenever she reaches down to get hold of him, he disappears and then reappears behind her. So a lot of good supernatural stuff going on in this episode. We cut up to the upstairs. Buffy and Riley, they're in bed, continuing with their love making. Riley hears Willow scream, haven't seen this ghost, but Buffy says it doesn't matter, and they continue on doing what they're doing. Xander, he's trying to find someone who's a friend of Julie's in the Spin the Bottle group, but no one seems to hear him and ignore him. Xander looks into the game, and somebody spin the bottle. This time it doesn't stop, it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker, and then explodes and showering everybody with glass. Xander finds Willow and Tara. They're coming down the stairs. Says she doesn't like this place and suggests that they leave. So Tara is, she's worked out kind of what's going on here. There's bad stuff happening. She's got her witchcraft senses going, and her spider sense in a way. So I'm losing my place in my notes again. Sorry about this. I jumped ahead, and that's been the bottle thing has threw me off here. Tara, Willow and Xander, they run upstairs to find Buffy and Riley, but the door's locked and they can no longer hear anything outside the room. To them it's just all echoes as these vines start to grow from the bedroom door. Tara goes to the balcony to see what's going on in the party. Suddenly the house begins to shake. Spike's pleased the party is becoming more interesting until these leather straps appear, moving themselves, binding him to the chair where he's sitting at. Two of the guys that are in the initiative, friends of Riley, Forrest, he wants to help people to safety and appeals to Graham, but in an unnatural voice he replies, "Touch not the impure thing, find salvation in the cross of our Lord and Saviour." Forrest pushes Graham into the elevator. The hidden elevator takes him down to the initiative facilities below the building. Spike breaks free from the bonds and the partygoers escape the house. Julie, who's cut all her hair off at this point, is the last one to leave. Downstairs in the initiative lockdown, Graham is back to normal. An earthquake happens. A girl runs through Anya. Xander and Tara and Willow arrive. Books are getting thrown out. The visual effects in this episode are fairly good, especially that moment with the books flying off the shelves and whatnot. Just old school effects. Always love to see it. Where are we at? these books getting thrown at them. Willow wants to go back to the old house for Buffy and Riley. Xander tries to go back in, but an unseen entity hurls him through the air, so he suggests getting help from Giles. But there is a funny little moment with Spike at this point. It's like everybody gets out of the house at the one time, and Xander is the only one that's really, I'm not leaving till I get my friends, sort of a thing, and who's with me, and nobody else is really willing to go in. But Spike goes, I'll go, and he goes into this whole kind of hero, kind of like, we should do this sort of thing. And then he's like, that sounded very, very real, and just walks off. So you always get a good bit of comedy with Spike. So the gang, they head off to the espresso pump, where Giles singing and playing guitar, a song Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. Willow, Tara and Anya, they're impressed. Xander, he's kind of disturbed about this. Meanwhile, in the little house, it's now empty except for Buffy and Riley, who continue to be wrapped up in what they're doing. The vines are stirring, and ghostly cries of children can be heard in the house. Over Giles' apartment, Willow's research reveals that the Lowell house at one point was a home for up to 40 adolescents who were runaways, juvenile delinquents, and emotionally disturbed teenagers from 1949 to 1960. The Scooby Gang work out that Genevieve Holt, who ran the children's home, is still alive, and they head off to see her. She explains that she rewarded the children when they were good and punished them when they displayed any interest in sex. She would cut off the girls' hair when they seemed vain about their appearance, and would baptise the most unclean by holding them under the water in the bathtub. So Giles goes off on one with this woman here, her Faith, misdirected. Faith has, mentally destroyed a lot of children over the years, and just pretty much, like, he tells her off in a big bad way. That's the last you see of her in this entire episode. But I want to say, whenever things start to get revealed in this episode, it's very, very interesting, and that's something that kind of appealed to me in this episode, because I've gone through things in the past through religious groups that wasn't along the lines of this here, but you can see how someone that is doing something through their so-called faith and having a very, very negative effect on somebody, especially kids. So that's what's happening in here. So after they leave, Giles says he thinks that the group of spirits in the house are actually poltergeist, triggered by Buffy and Riley's lust, and is now releasing their pent-up sexual feelings. They're taking their energy from the couple, and when they're drained of all their strength, they will die. So there's no actual ghosts of these kids really in this house. It's the pent-up feelings and lust, and just stuff that kids would go through in their teenage years, and all their bad treatment and whatnot. The poltergeist energy took everything that happened to these kids and manifested it in poltergeist activity. Willow, Tara and Giles, they try to perform a spell to stop the poltergeist, and they're able to summon the children. But however, before the exorcism is complete, the table's blown across the room whenever the kids, or the poltergeist energy, realises that Xander and Anya are back in the house, the frat house, trying to get to Buffy. And once they realise that, the spell breaks, they head back. So the final part of the episode is Xania and Anya trying to hack their way through the vines to reach Buffy and Riley. Anya's knocked across the room while Xander is thrown from a door and dragged into the bathroom for his own baptism. Through the water, Xander sees the children looking down at him. recovering from the blast. Anya makes her way upstairs to save Xander. She manages to get in there, get him out, and they fight against these vines that were growing out of the door from where Buffy and Riley were at the beginning of the episode. It's just kind of taking over the whole house at this point to keep people away, so that the poltergeist can actually drain the pair of them. So they're fighting through these vines. At one point, one of the vines actually busts its way through Anya's hand. So again, the visual effects in this episode are pretty good, and that vine come through the centre of her hand was actually pretty well done. So they finally get to Riley's door and eventually bust through the door, where Buffy and Riley still obviously they haven't got a clue what's been going on, and Buffy just simply complains that they should have knocked the door before coming in, and a nice bit of silent humour on Xander's part at this point. Anya's got her hand busted through by this vine. Everything's disappeared at this point. Whenever the door gets broken open, everything that's going on up to that point resets itself. So whenever Buffy looks out at the two of them, everything just looks normal, apart from Anya having this blood running out of her hand, Xander having this big cut down the side of his face and soaking wet from, these poltergeists trying to drown him in the bathtub. Like, you could have knocked, and he just kind of gives this little unbelieving kind of nod, and the two of them just walk away from the door. So at the next day, the gang, they're sitting about, and they're talking about how freaky it was and all that sort of stuff. But you realise that they're not talking about the poltergeist activity, but they're talking about Giles' midlife crisis and the consequences of Buffy and Riley's endless sex the night before. Unconvincingly, Buffy and Riley say how horrible the experience was. But so the episode closes out there, and in all honesty, if there is a way to go out, I think I would kind of pick that one. It would be an interesting way to end it off. So that's going to do it for this episode. Once again, before we finish it off, check out that movie that Juliet Landau has made, A Place Among the Dead. Very, very good. If you fancy getting in contact with the show in any way, shape or form, you can do it through the email Hellmouth Hotline at gmail.com. So the only other thing I can ask you to do is check out the website coinsagemedia.com for everything else that is going on. So that's going to do it. Until the next episode, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.